In this video, I'm going to show you Excel Analytics. This video was inspired by a post from Visha Kotori at the URL shown here. Let's take a look. We're going to explore pivot tables and pivot charts and look at how we may use these to analyze data that typically we have to do very manually. It's very time consuming. However, with the power and control of a pivot table and then of course a pivot chart to help display that data, we can easily, within moments, create great analysis of simple to complex data. The end results are going to look something similar to this in your Excel. We're going to have a pivot table that shows the countries and the types of email accounts by country. We'll also then take a look at as well a chart. This chart is going to say by country how many in essence clients do we have, because it's counting the number of names per country. And then we can see that in a beautiful pie chart that we'll be able to customize along the way. Let's step back and take a look at how this begins. First, in Excel, we must have a good, viable data source. Now, by this I mean a good data block that does not have completely blank rows and columns. We also have proper information. It's up to date and relevant. And of course, hopefully, no typos, because if there is a typographical error in either the email account or the country column, it may consider the differently spelled words, although it's all Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail. If it's spelled differently, then it may consider it a different entry. So therefore, it wouldn't summarize appropriately. So if we have a good data block, I do, then it's an opportunity for us to begin the most efficient way. Now, I find it's helpful if we just be somewhere in the data. If I'm outside of the data, I'll be asked and called upon to select the data. Much easier just to be somewhere in the data block. We then go to Insert. In the Tables group on the left-hand side of the ribbon, I'm going to click on Pivot Table. And this will allow me to arrange and summarize. Because I had a completely cohesive data block with no completely blank rows and columns, and because I was already in that data grouping, it automatically sensed that from A1 to C13, my data exists. And it's going to then allow me to create that into a new worksheet, or I can point to an existing worksheet if I happen to have had a place where I wished the pivot table to show up. I'm going to go ahead and choose New and OK. Now it's a matter of configuring how the data is displayed. We wanted to say by country. So I had country down to the rows area, and I'm focusing on the right-hand side of the screen, laying out the topic in either the filter, which we'll be able to break apart and isolate. Say if we had a date field, I could filter it by year, by month. If we have then the rows, that's our data that shows up on the left. Columns will be, say, email accounts, the types of accounts we have, Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, and then ultimately the data that we want to calculate. I'm going to choose name. Currently it's set to count of name, which makes sense. They're words. If they were, however, numerical data that we could do calculations with, we'd have a variety of choices such as average, min, max, sum, etc. So depending on the type of data, the way you summarize, of course, you'll have limits. And so I now have easily configured, and I know what countries, how many of each, and it's all completely organized. We have two custom ribbons to organize and make changes, one of which is up here, Analyze. So if I did not want the field count of name to say count of name, I might just want it to say number of customers. Now it shows number of customers. Much, much nicer. And so we do have some flexibility in how we configure. Now if you click away, notice the extra panel on the right and the extra ribbons disappeared. You must be somewhere inside of the pivot table in order to get the pivot table tools and the pivot table fields on the right. Let's go ahead and add a chart to this. The chart we find on the pivot table tools Analyze ribbon, in the Tools grouping, and Pivot Chart. This will do a pivot chart that is tied to this specific table that I currently have active. And by active, I just mean I'm somewhere in it. I don't have to have the whole thing selected. I'll go ahead and click on Pivot Chart. Now I'm going to be asked the type of chart I'd like. I'm interested in a pie chart. And we even have nice dimensional pie charts with a little call out. Regular 3D pie chart should be fine. Simply click OK. And now it shows me the customers. Now keep in mind that this chart, we can go ahead and place it wherever we like. What I'm interested in now is I don't need the types of email accounts. I just want to know how many customers per country. I can take the email account from the Legend series area and delete it. Just by left mouse click, hold down, drag it away. My mouse pointer will have a mouse arrow with an X. Release the mouse button. Move my chart into place. And now it shows me all of my data. So I have the number of customers per country. Simply double click upon the pie chart or any part of the pie chart, and this is where I can begin to control some of the pieces and parts. One of which is going to be what it looks like, fill in border, any special effects. The chart itself, we can decide how much it's going to maybe expand out if we wish it to, just for a little bit of drama there along the way. We also then have options up above, and I may set options about any of the pieces and parts that we're interested in. How the chart area will be displayed, the text within it. So full options, everything you know and love about formatting charts, you may go ahead and do so. It's just a matter of realizing that the changes to this chart are driven by this pivot table, which of course is ultimately tied to the original data. So if I change one of the items, say this is now going to be Gmail, the sheet 4 now updates to show that we have yet one more customer using Gmail. If we still have that data. If I go out and if I choose that not only was that Gmail but also a different country, so wrong data was placed in, we simply change and update that. When we go back, I now show that we have multiples. Now if you do not see your updates right away, please be aware that you may need to refresh. Now when I refresh, I now see 4 customers pertaining to the country of Germany, where before I had 3. And I did change the number to 4, but note that your pivots do need refreshed if they happen to be open when the data is updated and changed in the original source. Thanks again to Visha for the inspiration for this video. Please check out his blog at the URL shown here for other articles related to data efficiencies in Excel.